Alright, how's it going everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac and I'm here with a video on One Piece. And I know what you may be thinking, oh, were you watching it this whole time? No, I have not. And here's why. I have watched this show once, right? I'm only gonna say once because I watched the first half like 7 to 8 years ago now. I watched the second half 3 years ago now. And I rewatched the the first half again like a year 6 months ago, like a year ago now, and I don't want to rewatch the second half because that's too much. Like that's genuinely too much for me. I it's too fresh in my mind for me to try and be able to rewatch it and be like, oh wow, this is so engaging as much as it was the first time, because I'm going through like 500 episodes of content again, and the fact that I did that with the first half of One Piece was already like, oh wow, you're really stretching it. But I'm not gonna be able to do that for the second half. I need to know my limits and how far I can really stretch myself out, because as much as I love this show, I can't rewatch 500 episodes that I already know what's going to happen, like especially during Wano. Like for me, that's when it's really gonna be difficult. But that's why I don't want to leave you guys hanging with like, oh, where are the One Piece review videos? What? Or well, like the three people that ask where they are. But don't worry, I see you. I see all of you. But I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm gonna upload them when I feel like it. It's like, nah, I feel like I've gotten this far in the series. I feel like I owe it to you guys to really like finish this off, even if it's not like me talking about it freshly in my mind type stuff. But for me, I feel like that's better because that also means that you guys get what's it called, shorter videos. So they're not hour-long videos of me just talking about like the recap basically. So you guys get my filtered thoughts as much as possible. And I'm not gonna be summarizing the story honestly, like, because it is a lot. Like these arcs are just really a lot. So you guys are gonna hear my honest thoughts. It's not gonna be off of hype. It's just gonna be me talking about these arcs. And the first arc that we're gonna be talking about is Punk Hazard, which is the arc that I started watching the show again back like in 2020 when Totally No Mark was watching the show, and it just showed like how much I actually love the show. So this arc was like the honeymoon phase for me with One Piece, where I was really in love with this show. Like I dipped my toe back in. It was during a dark period in my life where I wasn't really doing too hot, and it rejuvenated me. It revitalized my love for anime and just watching shows. Period. Like this show was there when I was young, and now it's here when I'm older, and that's awesome. That's genuinely awesome. So that's kind of like the emotional follow through for me in terms of watching it. So that's why it may be higher than what most people would think, but this arc means a lot to me. It marked the start of me like genuinely falling in love with One Piece. Like the fact that all this is here, the fact that three things from One Piece are here, and one of them isn't even mine. Dude, this was Reaper who did this for me. I just asked him for help, and I did this one, and then I did this one. It's like, it's crazy. It just goes to show how much it has impacted um, my life in a sense. Because even my profile picture, it's just Sabo. Like stuff like that, like small stuff like that, really shows how important stuff like this is. So, I gotta give it credit where credit's due. Actually. Oh man. All right. Yeah, I just had to make sure that the audio was working. I said a huge spoiler in this part, so I had to redo it. But let me go into my thoughts, spoiler-free thoughts on this first, and then spoilers later. But this arc gets compared a lot to Thriller Bark, where Thriller Bark is an arc that people don't like a lot compared to like the arc that came before it and the arc that came after it. And Punk Hazard is similar, except it's more like the arcs that come after it, where it's the start of something really important. Same with Thriller Bark, but it's not as good as the stuff that comes after it. And Punk Hazard has the luxury of having Fishman Island right before it, where I like it, but I don't like it a lot. I think it's good, but not good enough. And Punk Hazard, I think, is better, but just not by much either. Like it's good, but it's not great. And you'll see what great really is when you see the subsequent arcs that come after Punk Hazard. But this arc, like it has a good villain. I feel like it has a better villain than Fishman Island did for sure. I feel like the main cast is good, not great, honestly. Like I feel like the introduction for Punk Hazard was pretty cool. I feel like the stakes behind it are also really cool. I like the concept of the of why Punk Hazard is like this and just the lore importance of this island to the rest of the world. I feel like that's really cool, and just overall the players that are in this island, all the important people that are here, and I feel like that's great, but at the same time, I feel like there's just some really boring parts of Punk Hazard, like exploring the facility, the well, I guess spoilers, but well, not spoilers actually. Just there. Well, actually, no, yeah, it's spoilers. It's spoilers. I'm not gonna mention it until later. But there's this one part where it affects the main cast, and I don't like it. I feel like it was boring. There's another part with children, and it's just like this is okay. This part's okay, but I don't mind it. Like, well, I don't like it much. But then there's foreshadowing for the next arc because Punk Hazard leads directly into Dressrosa, and in the spoiler section, I'll mention how. But Punk Hazard is important because it sets off a chain, and I mean a chain of arcs to come that doesn't end until all the way in like up until Wano, and you'll see why in the spoilers section. But this arc, like, it's more setup than anything. But what it has, it's good. It's just not great. I feel like the final fight with the main bad guy was cool. I feel like the characters introduced now having foresight is really cool. But for the arcs that are without knowing the future, I feel like they're still cool. I feel like they're interesting, and it just overall it shows that we're in the new world. Like if Fishman Island wasn't enough to know, we are in the new world, and that like this is just a little taste as to what's to come with the new world and arcs that are going to come with it. So I give this arc like a 7 to a 7.5. I feel like it could have been better, but for what we got, it was good. Just again, not great. So animation was better than what it's been before. Not great. Again, just better. The voice acting, the usual consistency that we always get. I feel like there's not much like of a standout for it, except maybe Caesar. Oh, excuse me. Wow. Don't don't worry about him. Don't worry about who he is. If you don't know who the what this arc is about, just now you know a character named in there is Caesar. But don't worry about him. He's cool. But anyways, yeah. So voice acting is cool. Just not like crazy. You have a story. It's okay. It's just okay. I feel like it's interesting with the concept of it, but One Piece pacing isn't great. Honestly, like I don't I didn't like the pacing for this arc, even looking back on it. I feel like it could have been better in terms of that area, but pacing in One Piece is just never good because Toei is always stretching it out to stay behind the manga. So that's just a fault of Toei more than the manga. But the manga also has that. I'm not even gonna try to front like it. The manga has bad pacing as well, where people like, oh, now that we know more people in the world in One Piece, it's like, oh, I just want to see more important people fight, and it's like, oh, but you need the story to be built up, and it's like, yeah, that's understood. Like the story should have its time to breathe and to grow and all that stuff, but that doesn't mean that the pacing isn't an issue. You know, there's some parts that are just dreadfully slow that you just want to get to the next part. Like even if characters need time to breathe, it's not like they get enough time to be important. You know, they're there and it's like, oh shoot, look at this guy. You remember him? Yeah, he's cool. But why are we seeing him now? You know, why is he important now? Why wasn't he being built up late or before like some of the more important characters are? You know, and you can't have that for every character. I understand that. It's just like the fact that everybody tries to get their share, but in reality they really shouldn't get their share. They should just be background. They shouldn't be important. But it just goes to show that Echihiro Oda takes time to delicately craft his world. Even if some facets get forgotten, or even if some facets just aren't delivered on upon, it's delicately and beautifully crafted. So I just gotta give it to him for that. But pacing for sure is still an issue for me, and it will always be with this show. But it's just something that you have to take with a grain of salt when it comes to watching this. Some people may be able to watch it. Some people won't be able to watch it. It really is up to you on whether you want to or not, like at the end of the day. But that's always just going to be a prevalent part of One Piece, the pacing. So, read the manga, watch the show, however you feel. It's up to you. But overall, Punk Hazard 7 to 7.5. Good, but not amazing. That's all I really have to say for it in terms of spoiler free. But let me get into the spoiler section. I can talk more about what I really, really liked. So, yeah. Spoiler section beginning. Spoiler free section over. So this arc takes directly after Fishman Island, where they're just mucking about. They're going around. They're trying to find new islands to explore, and they don't know where they're going. Really, they don't have any direction right now. They just finished all their stuff with Jinbei. Hopefully, he'll be joining soon, type stuff. And now they're trying to find where to go next, and they stumble upon Punk Hazard by accident. So they go onto it. They don't know why it's important, but they know about the history, where Akainu and Kid Nakazaru, Aokiji were fighting on this island during the after Marineford, and it was basically to decide who the uh, head fleet admiral would be after Sengoku quit. So Akainu won, but barely, and now he's the fleet admiral. And Aokiji left the admirals. He left the Marines and all that. So Akainu's the leader now, complete leader. So they step onto Punk Hazard. It's a fire and ice island where the fire's on one side, the ice is on another. It's basically that. And for the most part, we're gonna be spending our time on the ice islands because that's where the main important players are. But yeah, they step on the fire island. They see some important stuff there, like a dragon and Kienoman, who is a very important character that you'll see later on. At least one half of him. And on the other side, they go over to the ice island, and this is where we get introduced to the main players, like Caesar, like Smoker, and I forgot his assistant's name, but her as well. We see Kianaman's upper half. We see Momonosuke. We learn about him. And it's just overall, like, we get introduced to a bunch of players. We also see that Law, um, Trafalgar Law, is here as well. He's a warlord, and he was also a part of. Oh, he is a part of the what's it called, the next generation, or the whatever it's called. I completely forgot, but it's it has a lot of people here already, a lot of important people that are going to be important going forward. So just remember these people. But basically, this arc is Law sneaking behind Caesar's back, thinking that they're going to be partners, but they're not. It's Law with ulterior motives, and we'll see those motives later on. You have Smoker and I really forgot her name, but here as well on like Navy or Marine duties, and we have people from Doflamingo's camp, who is really important, and we'll see that later. But Doflamingo is the lead, a warlord, another warlord. There's the warlord system is strong, up and running. It's all going good, and you know, um, what's the word? He's still a warlord. He's been a warlord for a long time, even back before pre-time skip. So just remember him. And he has people here from his island. You have Monet and you have I forgot his name, but yeah, I completely forgot his name. But they're here, and they're basically here to survey Caesar because Caesar actually works for Doflamingo, at least forced to. Where here's the chain of command, right? You have Caesar all the way at the bottom, who's a grunt scientist. You have Doflamingo above him, who is employing his services to make devil fruits. So Caesar makes fake devil fruits that have power, but also have side effects, and they're called smile fruits. So just remember those as well. But next, above Doflamingo, is the Emperor of the Sea, Kaido. And you might be asking, okay, how does Kaido play into this if Doflamingo's a warlord? At the end of the day, they're all pirates, so Doflamingo is kept on a leash, but they don't know about the runnings and goings on of his island, so the Marines can't really do anything about that. And Kaido is an emperor, so if they beef with him, they're beefing with Kaido, basically. So Kaido employs Doflamingo's services which Doflamingo employs Caesar's services, so that's how it's running right now. And if we mess with Caesar, that means we're messing with Doflamingo, and it just goes up the chain of command basically. And this becomes important when we realize that Law is going after one of the emperors, and Luffy and him meet up and they're talking. They're like, "Yo, let's do an alliance. Let's make an alliance." And Luffy is down for it, because they're here to take down an emperor. But it just depends on which emperor it actually is, because he's not gonna take down Shanks. He's fine with taking down Blackbeard or Big Mom or Kaido, but just not Shanks, not yet. But he's like, yeah, we're gonna take down Kaido. Kid is gonna take down Shanks because that's what his plan is, or at least that's what it was. But he got clapped, completely clapped. And you have what's it called? You have him actually trying to take down Kaido before, but Kid also got eviscerated by Kaido. So we just don't worry about that. But regardless, Law and Luffy are now in an alliance, and that's really cool. And we just get a bunch of cool moments in this arc that really stand out to me. Like Law, Virgo, his name is Virgo, Monet and Virgo. There you go. So you have Virgo fighting Law, which is a really cool fight. Like it's Smoker and Law fighting Virgo, and it just goes to show like these people are strong. People in the New World are strong. Caesar being a scientist is mad strong because he's smart, you know, and Luffy has to fight him. You have all these other people in the facility having to fight each other. All the Straw Hat crew is there and they're fighting, and it's just basically like there's so many things going on. Smile fruit are the only things that Caesar is experimenting with. Yeah, he also experiments on children, which really just goes to show how nefarious he really is. So you have that chalked up as well. And it's basically Monet and Virgo working for Caesar while Law is also working for Caesar, but he has ulterior motives as well. While Kaido is the main goal, Law's goal is a different main goal. Like he's here with the Alliance. They're working together up until they defeat Kaido. But Law's main goal is somebody else. It's Doflamingo, and we'll explain that later in Dressrosa. But at the end of the day, basically, wow, I just got the craziest sense of deja vu where like I feel like I've been here before. It was super weird, super weird. But yeah, so you have children there, and you also have a bunch of other pirates that got kidnapped by Caesar that are here to be experimented on, and it's just a bunch of craziness going on. But let me talk about Momonosuke and Kianaman because they are really important, and I mean really important. So Momonosuke and Kianaman, they're father and son, but I'll reveal that right now. They are not father and son. So just, know that right now. But they say that to lie to them because they're really important. And I'll explain that in Wano, or at least in Dressrosa, I think, because that's when it gets revealed. But they're really important to the story. And they're going to be here for a while. So just know that during this time period from Punk Hazard all the way until Wano, people are going to be joining the ship but not joining the crew. So just know that. All because you see a new character who's important and has a backstory does not mean that they're going to be joining the crew. So just remember that. But Kianaman and Momonosuke, keep an eye on them. The story will show you deliberately why they're important, but just I can't say it right now. They're not father and son, but they are important no matter what. Just know Momonosuke had ate a smile fruit, and he can now turn into a pink dragon, and what's his name? Kianaman has a fruit where he can basically shapeshift clothes and all that. And he also got split up by Law himself because they never met each other. But yeah, so all these players are in play and they're fighting in Punk Hazard. And in the meantime, there's actually Caesar employed a thing to evaporate everybody, like to completely destroy, eradicate everybody on the island except himself and his soldiers, where he employed Smiley, which is a gas like a being who is meant to freeze everybody and turn them to stone and kill them. And it's spreading all around the island, and that's where the stakes are actually at, where they're trying to avoid Smiley at all costs, and that's basically the timer for beating Caesar and leaving the island because that's what they need to do. Like, and everybody's just running against the clock trying to beat Caesar to stop him from killing them all. And Luffy beats him basically, have a crazy fight, a really really cool fight, where Luffy and Caesar are just beefing with each other. Caesar's just this giant gas cloud, and Luffy's using his Gear 3 to beat him up. You have Momonosuke actually helping him out because Momonosuke can fly. But what's it called? It's a really cool fight. Again, Law and Virgo, or Law and Smoker versus Virgo, really cool fight. Have one of the coolest scenes in One Piece ever, where Law slices the dome that they're in fighting Virgo, and it just slices it into two, and it's so cool because Virgo, he's actually connected to Law the same way that Doflamingo's connected to Law. So we'll learn more about that later. But it's just really cool fight, really cool fight. Yeah, Zoro versus Monet was really cool. A dope fight as well because, like, it's kind of some like love in between where Monet started actually liking Zoro in between. Tashigi, her name is Tashigi. Oh my goodness, bro! I can't believe that these names are just coming to me now. Like, it's wild. But yeah, so Monet and Zoro are fighting. Tashigi's fighting alongside Zoro as well, and it's just a bunch of like nonsense going on. But yeah, the main plot point that I didn't like was them body swapping. I thought that was really dumb. Not like in terms of the mechanic itself, but just the way that it was executed. I didn't like it. Even back then, I didn't like it. I was charging along because I was so invested with the story. But I didn't like the body swapping stuff. I thought that was weird. And it always comes into play that Sanji's just gonna be a pervert. It sucks because Sanji's one of my favorite characters, but like the fact that he's a pervert all the time is such a negative trait. It sucks, man. Like it's played as a gag, but it's really weird. Like the fact that you have to live with the fact or live with Sanji being a pervert most of the time is just weird. I can't imagine being a woman on the ship having to live with that, and it sucks because that's Sanji at his worst. Sanji at his best is a gentleman, a true gentleman, a chef, and a great friend. At the end of the day, like the man cares for women because of the woman in his life that I won't mention later, but he cares for women and he's been raised to care for them. But then you have that part of him that gets played up for a gag, where it's him being a pervert, and it's just disgusting, bro. It's strangely nasty, actually weird. But that Sanji rant aside, like this arc has its ups and downs. Like again, it has some really cool moments, some awesome characters get introduced that you may or may not know about. But to me, the downsides are just like the it's not that great compared to other arcs that are coming up and compared to other arcs that have existed. While I think that Caesar is really cool, he's not my favorite villain. When I feel like the story is good, it's not great. There are other stories that are better in this show alone. Well, I feel like Smiley is a good plot device. That's just it, though. He's a plot device. That's all he is. And while I feel like the characters that get introduced are cool, or that get reintroduced are cool, and the ones that get introduced are cool, not all of them are. Because there are characters that I have not mentioned that are fodder and just boring. You know, like Bluebeard. I never mentioned him. Or Brownbeard, excuse me. He's cool, but he's not great. And it's just like, this is the start of One Piece where characters get introduced just to be introduced and for them to be there, but they don't really like they're not main characters. Like Oda is expanding the world, and that's great and all, but that just means that the story is going to be a lot longer now because each character has to get their own spotlight, and I don't like that. Like in terms of my enjoyment of reading the manga or watching the show, because that means that it prolongs the arc even more. Because we're stuck seeing somebody that I don't care about or that people may not care about just fighting this guy who we may care about or may not care about. Like, there's exceptions. There are obvious exceptions, but it shows the trend of that, and I'm not a fan of it because one arc for me that suffers a lot from that is Wano, wholeheartedly Wano, and I'll talk about that later and when I get to the video for that. But Punk Hazard is the start of that, and we'll see how that changes later on in the story. But let me just continue a little bit. So once they beat Caesar, they kidnap him to use him, and they leave the island. All those people there, you know, they're chilling. Tashigi and Smoker take care of the children. They're gonna help them and raise them and all that stuff, and things are going good. The alliance has been formed. Oh, and by the way, the reason why they took care of the children is because the Straw Hats help with that. But yeah, another island where the Straw Hats and the Marines, like Smoker, are involved again. Really cool. We haven't seen him in a while either, so hopefully we can see him like in present day. But the alliance has been formed. Law isn't with his crew, so he's actually been here by himself. He told Beppo and all of his crew to just like relax and go somewhere else, so he can do this for a little bit. Like it's gonna take a while, but he will be there. Like they're at never mind, that's a spoiler. Uh, but yeah, like Law is by himself basically, so he's been doing this all by himself. He's been doing it solo, which is really cool. Honestly, really cool to think about because that man is a supernova for a reason. So regardless, though, the alliance has been formed, and now um, they have to go over to Dressrosa, and that's what I'm going to talk about actually, how Dressrosa comes into play, because Doflamingo actually went over to Punk Hazard because he knows that Straw Hat, Luffy, and Law are going over to Dressrosa, because that's where Law wants to go next, and just how important Doflamingo really is to Kaido in terms of his production. So in a sense, they don't need to go over there, but they kind of do because if they take down Doflamingo, that means that that's one less player in play for the war against Kaido. But regardless, Doflamingo actually during all this goes over to Punk Hazard, and he's going to kill Smoker because he pulls up on him because they didn't leave yet, and he's going to kill Smoker. What's it called? Because I don't even remember why, but he was going to kill him, and we see the main dog, the behemoth, the Rottweiler incarnate, show up himself. We see Aokiji, the same person who fought Akiinu on this island. We see Aokiji show up and threaten what's his dude's name? Doflamingo, that if he touches a hair on Smoker, he will die. Doflamingo will die. And Doflamingo takes this, he takes it with a grain of salt. He's like, all right, bet. Just know I will come after you at some point. And he's like, all right, bet, dog. And Doflamingo leaves, going back to Dressrosa. And this is how it sets up for Dressrosa, because there was already story relevance with Punk Hazard and the connection to Dressrosa, but Doflamingo actively being a player before his arc even came just shows how important he really is and how he's gonna connect to Dressrosa because he's gonna go after Law and Luffy. As soon as Luffy defeated Caesar and as soon as he teamed up with Law, he became a threat. Like he generally became a threat to Doflamingo, so he has to take care of him now. So that's gonna lead us to Dressrosa, where in the next arc we're gonna see Doflamingo at his best, and we're gonna see one of the best arcs in all of One Piece. So I hope y'all are ready for that. But my MVP moment is a tie between Doflamingo going over to kill Smoker and Aokiji showing up, and well, actually, it's a three-way tie. It's between that. It's between Law fighting Virgo with Smoker, and Luffy fighting Caesar, and like him using the King Kong gun, like all the way at the back of the entrance. Like that was really cool, really cool. But MVP for this arc itself is difficult. It's really difficult because I can't give it to Luffy. Like the man fought Caesar and he was really good, but I'm gonna have to give it to. Mm, actually, I don't know. I'm gonna say Law gets the MVP. Oh no. Okay, for the A story, Luffy gets the MVP. For the B story, Law gets the MVP. But for the overall, like most important person, most valuable person on the team, it was Luffy, for sure. Because that man, if he wasn't there, they wouldn't have won. You know, they definitely would not have won. Actually, maybe Momonosuke, if you could say it, like if you think about it for a little bit. But yeah, like that's the MVP. The story I mentioned it before. It's just like I literally sound like a broken record for how many times I've said this, but it's good. I sound hype just talking about it, right? But I'm glossing over a lot of the bad stuff. I didn't like a lot of the boring parts of it. But I did again mention like Sanji's pervertedness and just some of the filler characters that matter in the story, but in reality are nowhere near as important as the other characters. Like One Piece has so many characters that you could literally have like a town made from them. Not even like a town. If anything, a city, like with like 10,000 people in them that each have their own stories, their own lives, their own families, their own backgrounds. Like One Piece is a world that feels lived in, but that's the problem. Excuse me, that's the problem. It's a world. So there's so many people that you will have to meet and have to learn about. And it's just like that sometimes drags it down for me. That's the ups and downs of having so many characters. You have so many important characters with their own stories, and it's impressive. But that means that you have to follow almost every one of them when they're in an arc. It's like, dang, bro, that's crazy. So if you don't care about them, you're stuck there watching it, bro. You're stuck. That kind of sucks. But let me know what you guys think down below about that. That's just my opinion on it. I don't like my opinions on this show are still like really high. It's still one of my favorite shows of all time. It's just I do have to be honest with myself and admit the critiques that I have for it. So that's just something I have to talk about. But yeah, I'm sorry again for not like going through with the full rewatch because I just can't. Like I'm generally sorry, but for me as a person, I just can't. It's too much to watch again, even though I've already watched it before. Like, and it wasn't even that long ago. It was 3 years ago, like almost 3 years ago at that. So it's just too early for me to go and rewatch all of the second half of One Piece, the post time skip. It's just too much for me. So I really apologize, but I'm gonna do my best to give it a fair shake and talk about the arcs as best as possible, as good as possible, and just giving them the most attention that I can off of my memory and memory alone. Because, hey, I mean, Punk has it. I watched like 3 years ago, literally 3 years ago. So the fact that I'm able to remember this much off of it alone is surprising even for me. So that's crazy. But next, my memory is really gonna be tested with Dressrosa. So tune in for that. But thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next video. One Piece. This series should be finishing soon, like the video series I have going. So stay tuned for that. But I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.